Start with Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
EJ.
It's very much my delight to welcome Darius to sub in for Sareka for a cooking show today. Over to you,
Okay.
Darius. Feel free to introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you, folks. My name's Duras Bilamoria. As we just said, I'm Meru Bilamoria's son. You can see her sign right here. That's from our office in the MPR. Um, just a little bit about me. So my family's been Baba lovers since 1940, and I was fortunate to see Baba through my childhood. So I have to admit, I've never ever read a Baba book in my life because it was imagine a 10-year-old being forced to read discourses. My mom was ultra strict, and that just completely turned me off. So I never read a Baba book, but I have to say that because of Facebook, I've learned so much, shared in our groups, and we have a weekly meeting online. So you learn a lot, and it's really opened up my eyes a bit more. Because as a kid, when you see somebody like Baba, he was just like a sweet, chubby old grandfather. You can't tie that whole thing in that's God.
Um,
But
wow.
anyways, so I originally intended to become a chef, so I went to college for 3 years, graduated, stayed, joined one of the best hotels in the world, Taj Mahal Intercontinental at the time, as a chef, well, as a sous chef, and lasted for 3 months. And then they said, "You're better suited somewhere else." Because I couldn't bring myself to follow recipes. I've never been able to. I think I got through college just on my good looks and charm, but I never could follow recipes, and I had a lot of difficulty. Anyways, but I stuck around in different areas of the hotel business for 7 years, I think, and then switched to IT, and then spent the last 34 years at the Royal Bank as an IT specialist. So that's my story. Uh, Getting back to the cooking part, as I said, I don't follow recipes. Most of the creations that I create are based on flavor profile. I think Sarika was trying to talk about that. I'd never ever learned the recipe for many of the things. For example, the vindaloo. I ate it when my mom and dad made. My mom and dad, by the way, were excellent chefs, and so is my wife. So I remember what mom and dad's vindaloo tasted like. So I just create my own, and I'm boasting, but it turned out bang on right. So just luck of the draw. So we'll cover pork vindaloo, and then if we have time, I'll go through some more dishes as we go along. Like I said, sorry it's not live, but hopefully you'll enjoy this too. So can you see my screen?
Yes. Are you going to post a recipe that we can copy, even
So
though you
let
don't
me
follow?
yeah. So don't bother that.
All
If you
right.
can see on my screen, I have a website where all my recipes, as I get around to
Oh.
documenting them, they're all there. So you can just click on one. So like if you want to know something like Asian style rice, you just click on it, and voila, the whole thing comes up with instructions, pictures, the works.
Um, Jay Baba Darius, I cannot see your screen if you're sharing screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you got to hit share screen on your window.
But I thought everybody said they were looking at
We
my
saw it.
vindaloo.
We did see it previously, Ferris Day. Are you? You're not sharing right now, are you?
Yeah, I am.
You are.
Okay, what you have to do is stop share and share again.
Oh, select the screen again. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that. But I thought when you share, oh, because of my dual monitors, that's the problem. Sorry, folks. Okay, I'll reshare now. I've got, okay, what do I have open? Okay, so let me know what we're sharing over here now.
All right, now you've started sharing. Now we
And
can.
that's the Vindaloo dish, right? Is that
Yeah.
what we're looking at? Okay, so let's get on with it. I just want to say I have a website where and I share the link on our chat over here, so you can copy the link and then you can just go ahead and uh, dig into those recipes. They're all there, well documented, hopefully. And if you have any questions at any time, just send me an email or something like that, and I'll answer it. So
We
okay,
don't see the link to your.
no, I'm not sharing that yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Alright.
Okay, just to make somebody happy, where is it? I don't even have it just now. So I'll share that with you later.
Okay.
Okay, so now pork vindaloo is something that originally came to us in India from the Portuguese. It's our variation on the Portuguese dish, and there's multiple variations. So there's the Moghai variation, there's um, Gujarati variations, all different parts of India create their own vindaloo. The people who live in Goa appear to think that theirs is the best. I think us Parsis, we create some of the best cuisine in the world, and our vindaloo is the best, but that's an opinion, right? So over here, I'm going to show you, I just chose the two normally used, for me at least, the two normal types of pork that I get. I like pork belly. If you look, you'll see this nice little white lines going through the pork and a nice thick fatty layer. And the fatty layer is the essence of the vindaloo. Now, people who worry about, oh, this is too greasy, this is too oily, all I have to say to them is, then you won't enjoy Indian cuisine because 99% of the flavor is in our oil. So if you throw the oil out, you're not going to enjoy it that much. So that's why fat is really, really essential to the vindaloo. And the other one I like is pork butt. So you see, it's a different one. But even there, you can find some nice, really thick rind and fat layer with it. Now, as I'm scrolling up, you guys are seeing the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So moving further, and those the recipe is for 1.25 kilograms approximately. Now, the key stuff for our Parsi type vindaloo is this EF Cola's vinegar. It's natural cane vinegar, and it's made in Navsari in India. And to me, it is the best vinegar in the world. It's extremely strong, rich, dark, and the flavor is just out of this world. The smell might be a little bit too much for some people, but I swear by it. And mustard oil. Mustard oil, again, adds so much to the dishes you cook. It goes without saying, it's my favorite oil. Not to cook everything, it's just to enhance certain items. Then we come to all the powdery ingredients. Here we have, oh, right, didn't have any in the house. I used Kashmiri chili powder. That's the one in the red bottle over here. Then along with that, ginger garlic paste, or standard in most of our Indian dishes. Turmeric, again, a very standard spice that we use all the time. Sambar. Now, sambar, this is not to be confused with the South Indian sambar. This is a Parsi specific masala, and it's made with fenugreek and other things mixed together. I have the recipe, and you can go to the link over here on the right, and you can see the recipe for making that masala. It's not too complicated, but at the same time, it's quite involved. So have a look at that. And just to tell you, you could do this entire dish without that. It's just a personal preference that I have. Then roasted cumin powder. We grind our cumin seeds down and roast it, dry roast them, and then we fill up these little bottles. Roasted coriander seed powder, half a tablespoon, again, ground and roasted. And kasuri methi. Now, this was something that Sarika showed last week, I think, on her last presentation. Kasuri methi imparts a beautiful flavor, and as I put it over here, it's sun-dried fenugreek. So what you do when you use it is you sort of take a little bit, the specified amount in your palm, you put the other palm over it, and you sort of rub it and crush it and let it sprinkle it over the food, and it gives it a beautiful flavor. So okay, so you take all of this stuff and you make marinade one. Sorry, was there a question? Nope. Okay.
Well, I have a question. I look at these, your oil and your back on so many things I would just have to substitute. So I guess that's just you probably don't have any suggestions about Western
Well,
vinegar or
yeah, and any kind of brown, rich sugarcane vinegar is the best. Now, white vinegar would work, but
Oh.
honestly, you just wouldn't enjoy it with white vinegar. Balsamic might work a little bit better.
Mm.
So just look for sugarcane vinegar
Ah,
anywhere, and
mhm.
it'll really work out beautiful for you. And mustard oil
What
and
about
all
the
these.
mustard oil?
See, mustard oil and all these, I'm sure even in Myrtle Beach, there are two Indian shops where you can go and shop for it. Uh,
Mhm.
we're
Right.
people from India are all over the world. We've taken over, face it. Um, so you'll find a shop anywhere practically. And all of these spices, just I'll take a break for a moment and tell you, uh, there are some very key spices, and if you have them and you keep them in your house, you can cook pretty much anything that will taste like an Indian dish. So the first thing is chili powder, second thing is turmeric, third thing is ginger, garlic paste, jeera powder, which is cumin powder, and dhania powder, which is actually coriander seeds powder. You have those, and you can create wonderful, wonderful meals. When I married my wife, she didn't know how to cook at all. She probably thought, the hubby's going to be a chef, so I don't need to learn. Today, she's an amazing, amazing chef on Parsi dishes. In fact, yesterday I started learning from her because I don't know how to cook any of the Parsi dishes our parents used to cook. But anyways, if you have those 4 or 5 things, you can cook pretty much any dish. And by adding little things like vinegar, even adding ketchup, you can make things taste different. So experiment with it.
Hmm.
Okay, so coming
Mm.
back, I've ground the whole thing. Now I've taken the vinegar, mustard oil, and poured it into the masala and stirred it and made a nice mixture. And that's going to be our marinade one. There are 2 layers of marinade that we're going to work on. So I will now take that marinade, toss it over the pork thing, and then I'll blend it in. And there we have the blended pork. I take it and I put it aside. Now, the second marinade stuff starts here more or less. So these are spices for we in India, we call it, and in Gujarati, we call it potli. Potli essentially is a bouquet garni, a little packet or a satchel that contains spices that you don't want people to get into their mouth and interfere with eating. I get very pissed off if I find a clove or something in my mouth. I don't like the taste, or a piece of cinnamon stick. It just takes away my enjoyment. So over here we have cinnamon sticks, 2 of them, a few pieces of mace. Mace really adds beautiful flavor. And then we go down over here. I've got the cardamom, cinnamon, cinnamon we talked about, cardamom, cloves, mustard seeds down here. I haven't shown the bay leaf over here, and I haven't shown, everybody knows what bay leaf is, but if you don't know what curry leaves is, it's a very, very special, very aromatic leaf that we use, Parsis use in all our curries pretty much. And over here, I stuffed the things that I make with it, and then remove the curry leaves because it imparts the flavor very beautifully. So moving on, I'm lightly frying all those items in mustard oil. Um, and in addition to that, I actually didn't show it over here, but I added sliced green chilies with the seeds removed because you've already got something really spicy going on and you don't want to make it like ultra spicy. One time I made vindaloo long time ago in college in London, Ontario, and it was so spicy. We went and bought 2 more kilos of pork, added it to it, blended it in. It was still too spicy. So ultimately, we ended up with 6 kilos of pork, which I then had to bottle and give away to friends. And so be very, very careful. This can get pretty spicy and burn your tongue a little bit. So okay, so I sort of lightly fry them in the mustard oil, and then now we start preparing the sachet. I actually do have sachets that are nice little bags. At that point in time, my order from Amazon hadn't arrived, so I just used a bit of gauze and yeah, and then yeah, those are the green chilies that I've added in, and then you sort of tie it up and make it into a little sachet, tie a string around it, and I'll show you how you're going to use it in a little while. Now going down, we have I've, the prep work was already done. The onions, chopped tomatoes, again a few sliced green chilies. We throw the onions into a pan with a little bit of mustard oil and a little bit of olive oil. just to mix it up. You fry the onion until they're pink, sort of pinkish, and then add ginger and garlic paste. And you sort of blend that in and wait till you get the full aroma of the onions and the ginger garlic. It gives you a nice, beautiful aroma. And that's when you put in your tomatoes, stir the tomatoes in. And now here's where you add in more turmeric, more Kashmiri chili powder, more roasted cumin powder, a teaspoon of sugar, and sea salt to taste. Now, sea salt to taste is kind of hard to tell right now because you haven't made anything to be able to taste it. So uh, I put it there because I know exactly how much I'm going to put. You sort of, when you've been cooking a dish, you know exactly what you're going to put in. So you just throw it in without even thinking about it. But you can actually add it in once you've got the whole masala all done. Add it in, and then you'll know exactly how much you want to eat. So now this is the marinade too. We've put all the stuff that we fried up above with the tomatoes and onions and all those things. And I've dumped them into the meat. I blend it in all together, cover it up. Then I cover up the bowl and I let it sit overnight. So let it sit throughout the night. I would say you definitely need 6 to 8 hours to really get the fun out of the vindaloo. So, and some people like to put it in the fridge. If the weather is not too hot, I like to leave it outside. The meat won't get bad, but it will absorb more of the spices and everything into it. So I like to leave it outside, but some people prefer to put it in the fridge. So now at the crack of dawn on the next day, you place a layer of half the pork at the bottom of the crock pot, like I've done, and then you put the spice sachet in the middle. Now note, I personally like adding 1 or 2 whole garlic heads into this mix, and I'll put them on the side of the sachet. And then when it's all done, I take the garlic out because it's beautifully flavored, and I eat it with the meal. And you cover it with the rest of the pork, so you're all set to go. It fills the crock pot just perfectly in this case. And then seal the lid on it and turn it on. And I leave it for 8 hours on auto. And this 30-year-old crock pot has worked beautifully for us. It never overcooks it or anything. But depending on what you're cooking, for example, I've used the same recipe that I've described to you for goat meat and for beef and for chicken. I haven't tried it on fish yet. One of these days I might get inspired to give it a shot, but I wouldn't slow cook fish. It'll become all mushy. So shrimp might work actually. I might give that a try. But so for other things like beef, etc., you don't want the beef to get overcooked or the meat to get overcooked and sort of really hard and chewy. So you put it on the lowest and you leave it on for maybe 5 to 6 hours, check on the meat, and then if it's done, take it off. So this thing goes on for 8 hours, and I put it on in the morning. By the time it's dinner time in the evening, you serve it up, and it looks beautiful. So this is how the pork belly will look. Notice the gorgeous oil. I mean, look at that. And my mouth is actually salivating as we speak. And same thing over here with the pork butt. Again, you see the beautiful layer of oil. I know somehow people in the West don't like it, but as I said, 99% of your flavor is in that oil. So that's the whole Vindaloo story. I think that's it. Yeah, last page. So now I'm going to see if I can switch to whichever screen has my. Okay, I'm going to move that somewhere else. Stop the share over here. Bring that. Give me a second. Bring that back. I'm just going to show you where my website stuff is so that okay, I'm going to stick it and hopefully it's for everybody so everyone in the meeting can get the hang of it. And there's the link, folks. Can you guys see it in the chat?
Thank you. I can see it.
Okay, good. So
Yes.
that's the link to there. And now let's see if I can share my screen and also show you. Let's see if this works. Yeah, now it works. Can you see the website?
Yes.
Okay, so all these recipes are there and you can go through any of them and see what they're like. But and like I said, they're all very, very detailed. So just as you saw in the pork, you see my photographs, my special notes, and all of these things. So you can go ahead and give it a shot, right?
You've been working on this for a while, it
Yeah,
seems.
it's just what happened was that I was on disability for 3 years once the whole heart thing hit and then the cancer and everything. So I couldn't figure out how to get my mind out of depression. I was on lots of depression and depression meds and all of that. So um, I needed something to sort of divert my mind away, and cooking was something that was fun. And because my wife was still working, I was alone at home, so I passed my time by cooking, and that turned out to be really, really sort of relaxing and cathartic in a way, you know. And
Yeah.
strangely enough, I was in such a state that imagine washing dishes in the kitchen gave me relaxation. Can you imagine how bad it must have been at the time? So yeah, that's how bad things got, where washing dishes will make you feel
Washing dishes
happier.
is my fun day, my fun time.
Is that right?
Yeah, I love washing
I used to
dishes.
hate it, but having been trained as a chef, what we, especially in our college, they're very, very strict. So once you use a container or a knife or a spatula or something, once you're done with it, and if you don't need to do something else immediately, you immediately wash that item and put it to dry. So those are the rules in the college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so I
Wow.
think we have time for something else. Should I go on to another dish?
Yeah, please.
Okay, give me a minute. And this is again something that was fun. Uh, it's chicken breast, stuffed chicken breast. And I'll try and reshare the screen so you can see it. It's taking a bit of time. Okay, and where am I? Zoom meeting, share, and it's this one. Okay, why is it so darn big? I'm going to try and make it a bit smaller if possible. That is gigantic.
There's view options. People can choose 100%
No,
or
it's right over here.
It
This
doesn't.
is
It doesn't look big to me.
really.
Looks okay.
How's it?
No.
How, is that better?
yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
You can
Very
actually
yummy.
read it and see all the things on it, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this again falls into the category of what do we have for dinner tonight? And my question is, okay, whatever we have at home. And I made this completely on the fly, never having made it before. And again, as I say so myself, it turned out to be absolutely delicious. And I loved it, and everybody in the family loved it. So yeah, that's pretty good. So it became butterfly chicken breast stuffed, marinated with various things, and then stuffed with onions, sweet bell peppers, tomatoes, crumbly mushrooms, and mozzarella cheese, and lovingly wrapped in thick sliced bacon. And you can see how gorgeous that looks. Look at it. I
I'm
love the
gaining
colors.
weight just looking at it.
Yeah, it was damn good, though, honestly. I was surprised that it turned out so good. I've never done it, and it turned out very nice. I was very happy. Okay, now I think maybe should I go up a bit then?
So
Okay.
Darius, do you mainly serve these types of things over rice, or I noticed you had potatoes with this one. Can it
Yeah,
also?
so it depends. Vindaloo you can have with rice or with chapatis. I prefer it with chapatis or parathas. We don't. We're terrible at making chapatis, as I was telling Sarika the other day. Our chapatis always turn out like a map of the world, different continents and stuff like that in shape. so nobody likes them. So we don't. We actually we're going to try making better ones, but not yet. So we buy the parathas, and we have a Hindu lady who makes wonderful chapatis, and we buy them from her. So we go out and buy 100 chapatis every once in a while, put them in the fridge, and we use those. So Indian food generally can go with rice or with chapatis. Uh, it's a personal preference. Now with this one, yeah, you're definitely not going to use rice because it's a fairly dry item. Yes, there is gravy and sauce, but it's meant to be had with perhaps a small bun with a little bit of butter on it. But I wouldn't put anything else, not even a chapati with this. It's just a Western dish, and it belongs in that sort of category of dishes where you sort of have to use a bun or something else that's even toasted butter, garlic bread, whatever. Okay, so the ingredients. So over here, I've got 5 boneless chicken breasts, courtesy of Walmart. Um, 2 packets of thick, low-sodium bacon. um, 3 colored bell peppers. You can use different colors. These are sweet bell peppers, so that they impart a lovely, lovely caramelized flavor when you caramelize them. Tomatoes, onions. Now, this unfortunately you can't see, but these are 2 huge chunks of mozzarella balls. Mozzarella is really lovely for cooking, at least from my point of view. It's very, very soft once it's cooked, and it covers everything with this beautiful white creamy, oozy substance. That's not great for cholesterol, but you gotta forget about that when you're eating stuff. So I enjoy that. So those are mozzarella balls, and you see them cut up in a minute. Cremini mushrooms. This is a bottle of Classica marinara sauce. Which marinara is that? Sweet basil marinara sauce. Classico manufactures a wonderful, wonderful Italian sauces, Alfredo, this, that, and the other, and you can use it in cooking. You can actually just use it straight out of the bottle onto your spaghetti. So I prefer that brand. It works beautifully. This is a weird spice from the United States. My daughter-in-law is a U.S. citizen. She travels back and forth. So she brought this spice over, and it's called, strangely enough, everything spice. Now, how alluring is that when it says everything spice and from a company called Let There Be Flavor? So I decided to try that out, and it turned out very nice. Lemon and herb spice adds again a little bit of tanginess, lovely, lovely flavor. Turmeric, chili powder, garlic paste. I don't think I used ginger. No, no ginger for this one. So those are the main ingredients. In addition to that, I also used Mrs. Dash salt-free seasoning. Unfortunately, I didn't incorporate that into the picture, but it's a wonderful, wonderful seasoning, salt-free, and you can use it with steak. You can even use it on a salad, and very versatile sort of powdered dressing. 2 tablespoons of virgin olive oil. Choose the best that you can. It's really not that different. Now, this part, unfortunately, I did photograph how it's done, but I'll just explain that essentially, when you look at a breast, it's when you look at these, you see they're in a shape of half a side of the heart, of a heart shape, right? So you take your knife and you go into it and you cut the thing and flip it over like this into it's called butterflying, opening it up like that. And if you need to see a video of it, I provided a link where you can see how a chef butterflies the chicken breast. Now, another thing that I didn't do, simply because I couldn't find the tool for it, is once you do this, it's nice to take one of those meat hammers and tap it down. Sort of, it loosens up the fibers also. It allows it to absorb marinades and stuff like that. Plus, it opens it up, so it's a nice flat surface for you to put your stuffing into. But I didn't find that, and I couldn't do it, so I avoided doing it and left it like that. So I covered up all the chicken breasts in a bowl with olive oil and garlic paste and rubbed them all in, and then I let them sit. And in the meantime, I went ahead and did all the chopping and stuff like that. So we've got all the different uh, bell peppers, the sweet peppers. Here we have tomato roundels, sliced onions, sliced mushrooms. And here, the white ones on the extreme bottom left, those are the mozzarella slices. You just cut through the ball and make these nice slices. They look like little apple slices, and we're going to use them shortly. So now we took all the powdered spices that I mentioned into a bowl, and then I rubbed them into the chicken breast and let the chicken sit, sort of marinate for about 30 minutes. So when I'm talking about all the spices, I'm talking about adding all of these into the garlic and olive oil mix and leaving it to sit for about 30 minutes. Once the 30 minutes is done, this is what you do. Over here, actually, I forgot to photograph it correctly. This was my very first one, and I said, oh, I forgot, and then completely forgot to take another picture of it. I got lazy. But you see there are 3 bacon strips laid underneath the chicken. The chicken breast is laid on top. Now, in addition to these 3, you put 2 in the sort of upright, vertical sort of position, so that you have 2 strips going across the 3. Then I've put the bell peppers, the onions, the tomatoes, the mushrooms, the cheese, all that kind of stuff on it. And then you start wrapping up the chicken. You don't wrap it like straight overlap. You go sort of crisscross and you sort of bundle it up so it looks like a little mummy, sort of like this. So you fold over your bacon strips going diagonally, crisscross pattern, to cover as much of the chicken breast as possible, and then you pin everything down with toothpicks. So that's 1 chicken breast, and so I did the same exact thing with the remaining 4. So we have 5 chicken breasts, and I put them in slightly deeper trays to bake in the oven, and then I bake them at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Now, once it's baked, there's a whole beautiful bunch of liquid at the bottom, which contains so much of the juices from bacon, the cheese, the chicken, and everything. So at that point, I lifted up the chicken and put them on this. Actually, it's a pizza dish, but you can put it on any kind of mesh stuff that's going to allow the juices to drip out and also allow the base of the chicken, the bottoms, because you can't flip these over. So you want the bottom to also cook evenly and be dry. Otherwise, you get a soggy, mushy bottom and it tastes terrible. So this allows the bottom to dry out and also to cook this thing. And before I put it back in the oven, I put some more mozzarella cheese on it, just added them in. And then I continued to bake at 350 for another 25 to 30 minutes, checking periodically to see for doneness. And you can check for doneness by using a thermometer probe. You can use just, I normally just take a knife, dig it in, and if it comes out without any effort at all, I know the chicken is cooked. Now, having done that, we now come to the marinara sauce. So this is the juice that came out of the deeper pans that I collected. So I took about little more than half a bottle of the marinara sauce and dumped it in here. If you don't have marinara sauce, feel free to use spaghetti sauce, anything you can find around the house, and drop that in. I then made a sauce out of it. Now, this is one thing that was near and dear to my heart because in college I wanted to specialize as a chef d'ssocié, which means a specialist in making sauces, French sauces. And I really worked hard at it and I became quite good at it. Unfortunately, didn't get to use the talent. But over here, so what I did was I took 1 tablespoon of butter, 1.5 tablespoons of flour, and made a roux. Does everybody understand what a roux is? So essentially, you put the butter in, you gently add the flour in, stirring all the time on very low heat, and you sort of make it into sort of cookie-like brownness, or it's sort of hard to describe. Yeah, you get a cookie-like taste if you taste it, and then you slowly add your liquid in. So in this case, I added the liquid from there, and it made it into a very smooth sauce that you can serve on the side. So I took all the trouble to make this very lovely smooth sauce, and then I found, oh, I still have some of the fried onions and stuff left. So I threw that in to add to the sauce and gave it a little bit of body, as you'll see in the finished dish. So here, these are the chicken breasts after they are removed from the oven. And of course, you set them aside to cool for about 5 to 7 minutes. And once they are, then you can serve them. This is what a cross section looks like. So you can see all the different layers, the bacon wrap, the stuffing in the middle, the white chicken breast, and all of it. And
Looks
that's,
beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah,
Really
like I
beautiful.
said, it was the first time I've ever done something like this, and it turned out so nice. So I was very, very pleased with myself. But I usually am pleased with myself. It's an ego thing, you know. Baba hasn't been very good at wiping out my ego yet. It'll go. But okay, so this is what the final dish looked like. And in this case, my wife whipped up some French fries. I took the stuff that was left over, the onions and peppers and stuff like that, um, added in some beans and things like that, sauteed it, added a little bit of sugar to give it a nice caramelized thing, and then dumped that in. And this is that sauce, that smooth sauce, now with the other stuff that I added in, so it's become a little bit more richer. And it was beautiful. So that, folks, is the second dish. Any questions?
Yummy. Very yummy, but very beautiful.
It's lovely to look at,
really
isn't it?
beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it's a very, very pretty dish. Any questions, anybody?
I have a question, and it's actually about the pork dish. I was reading the label of the mustard oil, and it said, and this concerned me, it said for external use only. And I'm wondering if you could say something about that.
Well, like it says, actually, I never read that. So I'm going to go back and look at that. That's hilarious. Wait, where's it gone? Pork vindaloo. Okay. Good Lord, it actually does say for external use only. But anyways, we've used this for a long, long time, and nobody's had any kind of problems with it. But I will actually check with Kisan. They have an office over here, because that's very weird. They do
It's all
use
right. We'll edit it out of the video.
No, it might actually, yeah, it's something worth pointing out and looking at, because I do know that they use mustard oil for massages. Maybe
I am very impressed with Diana's good sense of vision
absolutely, yeah.
and attention to
Yeah.
detail.
And
Yeah, me too. Wow, how did you see that? Wow.
If there's something to read, I'll read it. You put me in an empty room with a little bit of writing on the wall, and I'm going to go read the writing on the wall. I just,
Okay, but that was a good point, something to think about. I will look
But-
into it, folks.
could it mean external if it was a product of Canada? Now, could it have meant no, I was thinking, could it have meant external to the country?
No,
No.
never,
No.
no.
It has to do
External
with
to the body.
To the body, yeah, which is very, very peculiar. I don't think even the shop that carries it, it's a Gujarati shop, and I don't think they're even aware of this. So I'll go point it out and see what happens. That was very interesting. Okay, what time do we have? We still have 20 minutes. Would you like me to cover yet another one?
Yes, why not?
Okay, so give me a second here. Oh, screen sharing has stopped. The shared window is closed. Okay. I'll bring it up again and then we'll share it in a minute. So what? Oh yeah. I was going to show
You made me
something.
so hungry. I put my picture because I'm eating all the time. I can't watch this without eating something.
Well, that's a good sign. I'm flattered, you know. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something again that is absolutely a whimsical thing. No such dish actually exists. So again, just one of those things that I said, oh, look, I got this stuff. Let's make it. So that's how most of my stuff materializes and comes about. And I'm going to share my screen now so you can see it. There, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So
we don't see anything yet.
really?
Oh,
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Let me know, Betty. Can you see it?
I can see it fine. I don't, maybe.
I
you have
see
to-
it.
I can see
Yeah.
it.
It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Okay, so this is
Beautiful.
a take on a tandoori chicken. Again, my family was getting tired of me making tandoori chicken all the time. So I said, okay, I'll give a completely different twist to it. And I'll make a chutney tandoori chicken. So this is chutney is, I guess, do you folks know what a chutney is? I don't know how to even describe it, honestly. But you'll see as we go along. Chutney is an accompaniment normally.
It's like a pickled
Yeah,
something.
it's
Yeah.
something you
Pickle.
add as a side to your dish.
Maybe.
Yeah, and it's actually pickle is a nice way, even though it isn't a pickled item, it's still used or utilized sort of like a pickle. So okay, so there it is, all its grand splendor. Look at that. All right, so ingredients. Well, I used this was a 1.5 kilogram whole chicken, courtesy of Costco. Kisan's tandoori masala powder. Oh my God! I hope that's not for external use. I'd crack up if it was. So 3 tablespoons of Kisan's tandoori masala powder. Now this is a bit of a shortcut. Actually, there is a good recipe for tandoori masala. You don't have to go out and buy it, but it just requires a lot more spices to work on and a lot more roasting and blending and all of that. So this is an easy shortcut. Kisan makes amazingly delicious tandoori masala powder. Lemon and lime juice. I used real lime, which is I think from the same company. 1.5 cups. 2 tablespoons of oil, mustard oil preferred, which I used um, for external purposes only, mind you. Ginger paste, garlic paste, thick pressed yogurt. Now this is important. People mix up thick yogurt for Greek yogurt, and it isn't the same thing, folks. It's completely different. So thick yogurt is when they make the yogurt, it's then hung up to dry, hung up to not dry. You drip it. They tie it up and they drip it, or they sort of suck all the water out of it, and then make a thick, chunky thing, and that becomes pressed yogurt. It really is very nice because it coats your chicken, coats everything very evenly. It's like a cream, and it really works very well. So if you can get thick pressed yogurt, use it. If not, use ordinary yogurt. That's also fine. Kasuri methi we've already talked about, dried fenugreek. In my case, now I'm too lazy to do that rubbing of the hands and all that. So I just powdered the thing in a blender and used the thing. It's easier to measure also, 1 tablespoon. So then we go back to our turmeric powder, roasted cumin powder, coriander powder, sambar powder, coriander. So now, are you seeing a trend here? This bunch, turmeric powder, kasuri methi, roasted cumin. These are the spices that I was telling about. That if you have these, you can cook just about anything to make it taste like an Indian dish. It really is fantastic. Then 2 bunches of coriander, really large bunches. Please don't mix that up with parsley. Parsley tastes like hell when you actually cook it as coriander. So actual 2 bunches of coriander, real good coriander. Curry leaves, I've already explained. They're leaves with a beautiful flavor of curry. Onions, green chilies, and you can use, I use 6 and large ones, but you can use more or less as you like. And then of course, salt to taste. So we grind the onions, coriander, green chilies in a blender using the lime, lemon to choose to liquefy. It wasn't meant to say juice. It was meant to say juice. I don't know how juice came up. Okay, sorry about that. It's lime lemon juice to liquefy, and use a little water if needed, not too much. Now, when the chutney is nicely ground into a granular paste, you add in all the other spices along with the ginger and garlic paste. Dish the whole thing out into a bowl and blend in the mustard oil and the yogurt cover and set aside. So here's all the ingredients: and the onions, the chopped up coriander, the green chilies, the curry leaves. Now the curry leaves didn't go inside. Okay, the curry leaves are held back for future use, but just chunk it into the blender, throw the other masalas in there, and there you have your chutney, nice brown colored chutney. So now what I did was to show folks um, how I marinate a whole chicken. I do it differently from, I don't know how other people do it, but it's just the way I've always done it. So trenching and marinating a chicken, you do that, you cover it up and let it sit in the fridge for 8 to 12 hours. Minimum is 3 hours, but I like to give it a long time. Then in my case, I put it into an air fryer. You can also put it on a rotisserie and then, or even in an oven, and just let it cook at 325 for about 50 minutes, turning the chicken over half the way. Then you let it cool. This is important. Let it cool for 20 minutes at least, 15 to 20 minutes before carving. If you cut it before that, all your juices are going to spill out and get wasted, and your chicken will be dry. So just like you do with steak, pot roast, everything, let the meat sit. As much as you might be drooling over it, it's worth waiting because it keeps the juices tied inside and it's really nice stuffing. So now this might gross some people out, but this is how you do it. So chicken skin, some people don't realize it. I'm beginning to sound like Donald Trump where he says, well, most people don't know this, but you can actually lift it up fairly easily. It's very elastic. And here I'm putting my hand through on the throat end where the wishbone is, and I'm sort of separating the skin from the actual body of the chicken, but I'm leaving the skin intact because that's going to hold all my spices in. Now, then once I've separated it, I lift it up and I take a carving knife and I start making slits. This is the left side breast. So I've made my slits in here. And then I'm going to lift up the right side over here in the middle and do the slits over there. Now, in the middle right-hand picture, I'm now putting my hand in further, deeper in towards one of the legs, chicken legs, and opening it up. And again, as I open it up, you can see the skin isn't torn yet. I'm putting my knife inside and I'm putting slits into the fatty area of the muscle area, actually, of the chicken leg. So the marinade can even seep in there. Now, I've flipped the chicken over. So I'm looking at it from the rear end, as it were. It's lying on its, is it lying on its back? Yeah, it's lying on its back. And now I'm working the breast from the other side. So I'm making the cuts into, you can see me making cuts into the fleshy parts. I'm opening it up further and further to allow me to cut deeper trenches into the meat. But you have to be very, very careful because now the skin's becoming more and more taut and it's likely to break if you're not very careful. But it can be done, is what I'm trying to show, is you can keep the thing. Now comes the marinating. So here I'm shoving it up into the interior of the chicken. I like to marinate the inner walls completely and thoroughly because that's where the juice is going to get into the inner side of the chicken. So here I'm stuffing it in, and now I'm going to work on the top of the chicken in the middle. You can see me putting that in, and over here I'm picking up the curry leaves. And the curry leaves, what you have to do is to shove it up the chicken's bum. So you can see it down here. I put the curry leaves, just no cutting them. Don't cut them or don't break them apart because then it becomes difficult to take them out when you're going to eat it. Otherwise, you get curry leaves in your mouth, and some people don't like it. So I just stuff the whole bunch in from behind, and then I put it in my air fryer. I have a lovely air fryer, one of the cheapest ones I could find, but it is amazing. It's a huge air fryer, and it does a wonderful job. So I put it in the air fryer for, what was it? Yeah, and I let it cook at 325 for about 50 minutes. Halfway through, we flip the chicken over and let it cook over there. And when it comes out and you're all done, it should look something like that.
Mm.
And then you can cut into it after about 15 to 20 minutes, and it'll be really nice and spicy and tasty. Any questions, folks? Anybody spot anything that should be used external only yet?
Very impressive.
Okay, we have 10 more minutes. Let me see if I can pick up something short to show you.
Something sweet. You have something sweet?
Actually, do I? No. My wife is the sweet chef, quite literally and in other ways. She's a sweetheart. But what do I have? I don't think I have a single sweet thing. I've got puff pastries.
Oh, puff pastries.
Yeah, I love puff pastries. So why don't I show you a quick puff
Darius,
pastry?
excuse me,
Huh?
Darius. You use green chutney on your chicken and all?
Yeah, this time, well, it's not really green chutney, right? Green chutney, the traditional one that I make for patrani machi and things like that.
That type stuff.
That's very, very different. And I have the patrani machi in my recipes on the website,
Huh.
so you can look at that. And then I have a separate thing that shows you how to make the green
I
chutney.
used a green chutney on chicken and fried it.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's like what we call in Parsi food. We call it chicken farcha with chutney
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Like fun.
No, that's very common. They even serve it at weddings too. But this is different because this is not that chutney. It's got no kopru. Kopru is what? Coconut. None of that in it. And it doesn't have any tangy,
Oh.
sweet and sourness. This is pure chili and coriander.
Okay.
So it's slightly different from that point of view.
Mhm.
Now, hang on. So I'll do a quick short one, hopefully. We don't have too much time, so. Actually, since somebody mentioned chutney, I'm going to show you something else that I did with chutney. And why don't we go through that as quickly as this thing opens? Here we go. And I have to share my screen in a minute. Give me a second. View home. Okay. Share the screen, and I'm going to share this one. Okay, everybody see this? So one of the most favorite Parsi dishes at weddings is a thing called patrani machi, which normally is a fish called the pomfret, which we get. I don't know if you get it all over the world, but normally it's the most commonly found fish in the Arabian Sea. So in Bombay we get it, and it's a beautiful fish, white and very flavorful. So in this case, obviously you don't get that. So I used tasa, haddock, cod, any one of these. Talking about that patra, it's called patra. Patra means leaf, and this is traditionally a fish that's wrapped with this green chutney we just spoke about, and then it's wrapped with banana leaves, and then it's steamed. In my case, I steam and bake partially, so it gives it a slightly different flavor. But then, like I said, I don't follow any recipes. I just do what I feel like. So on the screen, you'll see my link. It's a link to the Parsi green chutney. Again, it's my green chutney. I don't know if that's a real green chutney flavor, so don't criticize me if it's not exactly what Parsis normally make. This is what we made at home, what my mom's chutney tasted like, and it tastes good to me, so I make it that way. So anyways, here we go. 4 frozen medium fillets. I got mine at Costco. Garlic paste, red chili powder, turmeric, amchur powder. Now this is dried mango powder, and again, you'll find it in Indian stores. If you can't find it, don't worry. Lime juice will work. But if you can find it, it's really, really nice to use. Salt to taste, my green chutney, and maybe if you have time, we'll go over it. Otherwise, you can use the link and look at it. 7 days bake it puff pastry. Now, this is just, I use the brand over here because to remind me which one worked well. So that's available at Fortino's, which is a Loblaws chain store close to us. Quarter cup of flour for dusting, 1 egg beaten for brushing, butter for linings, stuff like baking sheets, etc. And important ingredient, way better still, at working with puff pastry than I am. Yeah, my earlier adventures with puff pastry were quite hilarious. So, okay, prep. Dry each of the fish fillets and cut them into smaller pieces. Now the filling. So mix the green chutney. Please taste your chutney and adjust the chili powder according to your taste with all the powdered ingredients and blend it into a fine paste. The puff pastry. So if frozen, you let it defrost in the fridge. It should be cold when you start working with it. Unroll the pastry. The advantage of this brand is it comes nicely folded rather than rolled. So it opens up very, very easily. And then you can roll it a bit to stretch it out. It should be 3 or 4 millimeters thick. Use the flour for dusting. Flour? That should say flour. Sorry, please don't use the floor for dusting it. I gotta go and check these things out. Use the floor for dusting. That's funny. Then cut out big, and I used a soup bowl and buttered the edge so it wouldn't stick. I didn't have the baking stuff, so I had to sort of make do with different things. So I used a soup bowl and I buttered the edge of it so it wouldn't stick, and put it on there and cut round sections. Then I made a layer of chutney mixture on the round pastry, cut out and placed a chunk of the fish on it in such a position that when you fold the pastry, both top and the bottom of the fish will be covered. Crimp the pastry around the edges and nicely close. Brush with a non-stick baking sheet. Brush a non-stick baking sheet with some butter. Place each pastry on it and brush it with the beaten egg. So here are the pictures. Those are the fillets. That's my masala or spices. That's my green chutney already made. We usually make the green chutney once a year. Not once a year, sorry, once every 6 months. And then we freeze it in bottles and put it in the fridge, and it lasts all throughout the year. This is the particular puff pastry that I use. Here's the soup bowl, and I'm cutting out circles like that. And at the end, I had these nice little circles. I put the chutney in the middle of it, sort of spread it on, put the fish, chunk of fish over it, folded it over, crimp the edges, and put them in the oven, and I baked them, and that's how the final thing looked. So this is a variation on the patrani machi, which is covered in leaf, banana leaf, but I made it with puff pastry, and again, it turned out really nice. It worked out beautiful. So there you go.
Nice.
That's
that's it.
amazing.
Also looks very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Thank you. And folks, that brings us
All
to
of
the-
these can be made vegetarian, of course, for those.
I would imagine so. For example, what I did with the fish, you could make it with zucchini strips,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
you just have to be creative with whatever you have. I mean, you could
Or
stuff it-
mushrooms, portobello mushrooms.
yeah, or even chopped cauliflower. You can make it if you're into that kind of thing. I am not that much into veggies, but that's because I was punished and made to eat them by force.
Oh.
Yeah, my mom was a little bit of like Hitler sort of thing. Very, very